Your Playhouse of Favorites. How do you do? This is Robert Anthony Dean, inviting you to your Playhouse of Favorites. Our favorite story for today is the immortal David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. Our stars, Alastair Kyle as David the Boy, with Chester Stratton playing David the Man. For 2 long years, Mr. Dickens worked on this tremendous novel. And when finally he laid down his pen, he said, "Yes, my task is done. And of all my books, I like Copperfield the best. It will be easily believed that I am a fond parent to every child of my imagination, and no one can ever love that family of children as I love them. But like many fond parents, I have in my heart of hearts a favorite child. His name is David Copperfield." And now, the Playhouse of Favorites and Charles Dickens' David Copperfield.
I, David Copperfield, being now grown to man's estate, do look back into the shadows of memory and relate my personal history, experiences, and observations as a little child. These memories may not be joyous, but they are vivid. And like the memories of many a grown man who looks back into his childhood, they seem to have happened yesterday. I'm told that I was born one night at my childhood home, Blunderstone Rookery, in Suffolk, England, under circumstances quite unusual.
Lordy, Nettie, do be quiet.
I don't like it, I tell you, Peggotty. I don't like it at all. My poor little neighbour lying in the next room.
Nettie, you're an old fool, that's what. I've been in Mistress Copperfield's service for many years, I have. And there's none stronger nor braver. Yes, even when the master died 6 months ago. You don't have to worry none about her.
Oh, it's this sitting and waiting, Peggotty. And this horrible place, Blunderstone Rookery. Oh, it fair gives me the creeps at night.
Oh, shush. Look, dear, there's naught to be afraid of. Dr. Chillip's in there, and he's a good un, he is. Now...
Peggotty, what?
Now, Nettie, it's only the church clock. You're as jumpy as a jack-in-the-box. I'd better brew you some tea.
Peggotty, listen.
Look, dear, to what?
The clock chimes. Oh, Peggotty, it's midnight.
Ah, shush, Nettie.
Peggotty, did he hear? Did he hear that?
It's come. Oh, thanks be. It's come.
Oh, poor little thing. Poor little thing.
Huh? And why poor little thing, pry, Nettie?
It's the black witching hour and the black witching die.
Well, what does that mean?
It's well known and everyone knows it. Any child born of a Friday at 12 o'night will always find bad luck. And any child born of a Friday at 12 o'night will see ghosts and spirits from the cradle to the grave. Oh, poor little thing. Poor little thing.
And thus was I born. But there's still another incident related to me in later life by Peggotty, my mother's faithful servant and my dear governess. I was no more than a few minutes old when...
Stay where you are, Nettie. I'll go to the door. Probably another neighbour to wish the mistress good fortune.
Well, woman, don't stay there gaping like a foolish parrot. I've come all the way from Dover, and I'm in no mind to stand on the doorstep to catch the ague and fever.
Oh, do come in, ma'am. Come in.
Now then, How is my niece progressing? Has the baby come yet?
Why,
Lord love us, don't stand there gaping. Say something.
How shall I say, Corley?
Drat the girl. You get into that room and tell them that Betsy Trotwood, aunt of that poor boy who died, is here, waiting. And be sharp about it. Be sharp, do you hear?
Yes, ma'am. Immediately, ma'am.
Here now, what's this? We can't have any noise, you know.
Lord love the man. And who might you be?
Dr. Chillip, ma'am, at your service. And you are Betsy Trotwood, Aunt David Copperfield deceased, I presume?
You presume correctly, sir. But come, Dr. Philip or Chillip or whatever your ridiculous name might be. What's happened? What's happened, I say?
Well, ma'am, I am happy to congratulate you.
Upon what?
Well, Mistress Trotwood, I...
Mercy on the man, what's he doing? Can't he speak?
Now, be calm, my dear Miss Trotwood. There is no longer any occasion for uneasiness.
Then it's over.
Yes.
Good. Now then, sir, let's get on with it. I'll take charge of the little girl. I'm going to bring her up. Do you hear? My poor nephew married below his station, but I'll let bygones be bygones now. I'm going to raise that newborn girl and name her Betsy Trotwood Copperfield. I intend to be her godmother and no nonsense about it.
But Miss
now, don't
Trotwood,
interrupt me, sir. She'll be brought up as a Copperfield should. I'll see that her mother is well taken care of. Bless the flighty child. She could never bring up a Copperfield as a Copperfield should be. But how is she, sir?
Well, ma'am, she's comfortable. Quite as comfortable as we can expect a young mother to be.
Oh, no. She, the little girl, I mean, the baby.
Ma'am, there's been a mistake. I apprehended that you had no...
the man. What's this? What mistake?
It's not a girl, it's a boy.
A boy? A boy? Lord love us, a boy. And I thought it was a girl. I counted on a girl. I insisted on a girl. And you tell me it's a boy. I've had enough of this horrible house. I wash my hands of this affair. I want no boy in my house. I'll never be godmother to a boy. No, not I. Not I.
I never knew why Aunt Betsy had been prejudiced against little boys. But now come the people and events within my actual memory. I recall my mother with her fine eyes and pretty hair. And Peggotty, dear faithful Peggotty, with her black eyes and rough, dear hands. I remember the house and everything in it. In those very early years, we were very happy. Mother, Peggotty, and I in Blunderstone Rookery. But there came a day at last which brought with it foreboding. I remember I was sitting with Peggotty and...
Peggotty?
Yes, child?
Do you suppose Mother's still walking with the gentleman who has the black whiskers? You know, the one we saw in church Sunday.
Look, dear, I don't know.
Peggotty, you mustn't marry more than one person at a time, must you?
Certainly not, Master Davy.
But if you marry a person and the person dies... then you may marry another person, mayn't you?
Now, lad, this talk aren't for you and me.
Davy, my little dear, my darling.
Hello, Mother.
Has my little boy been behaving himself, Peggotty?
Yes, Mr. Copperfield, yes.
Well, Clara, well. So this is your son?
Yes, Edward. Come, Davy, dear. Kiss me.
Ah, my little lad, a privilege for a king.
Now, Edward. Davy, this gentleman is Mr. Murdstone, a good friend of mine. Oh, come, dear, say how do you do to Mr. Murdstone.
How do you do, sir?
Come now, Davy, there's a manly little fellow. I want to be friends. There now. Come.
Davy, dear, where are your manners? Why do you draw away? Mr. Murdstone is our friend.
Dear boy, see how he clings to you, Clara. I cannot wonder at such devotion.
Oh, Edward, he's just a little shy. I'm sure the two of you will be fast friends soon.
Of course we will. Won't we, lad?
Yes, Mr. Murdstone. I hope we shall, sir.
That was my first meeting with Mr. Murdstone. A short time afterward, Peggotty and I went for a fortnight's holiday to her brother's home in Yarmouth. I wondered at the time why Mother had insisted that I go, but when I returned to Blunderstone Rookery, I found out.
Why have we come into the house through the back door, Peggotty? And why didn't Mother meet us at the gate?
Davy, dear,
Peggotty, what's the matter? You look so strange.
Oh, Master Davy, I've been meaning to tell you. Now I've got to tell you before we go into the parlor.
You mean it's a secret?
Davy, you've got a new father.
A new father?
Yes, dear.
Peggotty, you mean Mr. Murdstone?
Yes, child.
Oh, Peggotty. Peggotty, no. I'm afraid of him. I'm terribly afraid of him.
Peggotty dried my tears, and I went into the parlor, my young heart filled with dread. There sat my mother and Mr. Murdstone in front of the fireplace. I stayed but a minute, gave some excuse, and crept upstairs. When I reached my room, I threw myself upon the bed and sobbed. I'd been upstairs no longer than a quarter hour when my bedroom door opened.
David?
Oh, yes, sir.
Now, boy, let us understand one another.
I don't know what you mean, Mr. Murdstone.
You'll find out soon enough. It's either going to be you or me here at Blunderstone Rookery.
You or me, sir?
Exactly. Now then, boy, if I have an obstinate horse or dog to deal with, what do you think I do?
I don't know, sir.
I beat him.
Oh,
I make him wince and smart. I say to myself, I'll conquer that fellow with a whip. And if it should cost him all the blood he had, I should do it. It should either be him or me. Do you follow me, boy?
yes, sir.
Then we understand one another. Now be sharp and mind your manners. Do you hear? Wash your face and come downstairs at once. There'll be no more of your sniveling nonsense around here from now on.
Life at Blunderstone Rookery became a horrible ordeal. I lived day after day in mortal fear, Mr. Murdstone. And matters became even worse when Miss Jane Murdstone, my stepfather's sister, came to the house to live. She was as harsh a woman as he was a man.
Generally speaking, I don't like little boys. You understand that, do you not?
Yes, Miss Murdstone.
I particularly don't like stubborn and willful little boys.
Yes, ma'am.
I dislike them even more when they're stupid and bad-mannered. That is clear, is it not?
Very clear, ma'am.
Mr. Murdstone and I have decided to bring you up the way you should be brought up. We've decided to be firm. You'll do as you're told now, boy. Do you understand? Your mother's been weak. She's petted. She's spoiled you. But we shall take you in hand now.
Yes, I had been happy at Blunderstone Rookery with my sweet mother and faithful Peggotty, my governess. It was not until Mr. Murdstone married my mother and thus became my stepfather that I first came to know fear. My mother tried to comfort me, but she was completely dominated by the Murdstones and herself in mortal fear of them. Finally, matters came to a head one evening. I'd recited my lessons to my mother over and over until I knew them perfectly. Then I was summoned into the parlor to recite them to the Murdstones.
Your mother informs me that you have learned your exercises.
Yes, sir.
Of course he has, Edward. He knows them by heart. He recited them to me perfectly not 5
That'll
minutes
be enough,
ago.
Clara. I'll hear it before I believe it. Jane?
You're right, Edward.
Well, boy, proceed. And mind, you'd best know what you're about.
I'll try, sir.
Well, begin. Don't stand there staring at me like a little frog.
Begin, Davy, dear. Just recite it the way you did for me.
All right, Mother. The island of England extends from the mouth of the Tweed to Lizard Point in a roughly triangular form. The base of the triangle runs from South Foreland to... It runs from South Foreland to...
To Land's End, dear.
Yeah. We'll have none of that.
Yes, Edward?
He either knows it or he doesn't.
Go on, boy.
It runs from South Foreland to Land's End. The west coast extends from...
Go on, Davy, dear. Go on.
It extends from Solway Firth to...
Jane Murdstone,
Yes, Edward.
would you say that the boy knows his lesson or does not know it?
He certainly does not know it.
What do you say, Clara?
He knew it perfectly, Edward, a while
But
ago.
does he know it now?
No, Edward, he doesn't.
I agree with you both. He does not know it.
Edward, please don't be harsh on the
Silence,
boy.
Clara. Well, boy, and what is your excuse now for this disgraceful performance?
Mr. Murdstone, I've tried to recite, sir, but I cannot while you and Miss Murdstone are watching me. I cannot indeed. Oh, I cannot.
Edward, that child is impertinent.
David, you and I will go upstairs. We're going to have a little talk.
Mr. Murdstone beat me then. For I fought back feebly, even hit him in the hand, but he only hit me harder. Finally, he was gone, and I lay on the floor, fevered and torn and sore, wishing I were dead. The next morning, Peggotty told me that Mr. Murdstone was sending me to a school in London. The school was called Salem House, and I hated it bitterly. The masters were cruel, the meals poor and scanty, and life monotonous drudgery. I'd been there no longer than a few months when the cup of misery ran over. My mother died. Mr. Murdstone now had full control over me. He immediately took me out of school and sent me to work in a London counting house for starvation wages. I was a boy of 9 at the time. And my first day in that grey, decrepit, rat-ridden place was a nightmare. During the days that followed, I was often hungry. I worked long hours, and my life would have been unbearable if it hadn't been for the Micawbers, with whom I had a small bedroom. They were poverty-stricken and ridden with debt. And Mr. Micawber, I'm afraid, was not a provident man. But their kindness was the only bright rift in a black sky. And then one day, Mr. and Mrs. Micawber called me into their parlor.
Master Copperfield, I grieve to tell you that our pleasant association must soon be terminated.
Terminated, Mrs. Micawber?
Unfortunately, yes, Copperfield. I've stayed here on the premises hoping that something would turn up, but my creditors are implacable. My resources here in the metropolis dwindle.
In short, we have nothing.
To put it tersely, Copperfield, nothing. In short and to wit, nothing has turned up. There has, however, been a call from Plymouth where perhaps I may exert my talents to better advantage.
Mr. Micawber is a man of great talent, Master Copperfield.
Oh, of course he is, Mrs. Micawber. But I shall miss you both terribly.
I shall never, dear boy, revert to the period when Mr. Micawber was in difficulties without thinking of you. Your conduct has always been of the most delicate and obliging description. You have never been a lodger. You have been a friend.
Thank you, Mrs. Micawber.
Master Copperfield, we appreciate your kindly sentiments. And now, my dear young friend, I'm older than you, man of some experience in life. I shall now give you a piece of advice that I'd never have taken myself. And thus, in the miserable wretch you see before you.
Yes, Mr. Micawber?
Annual income, £20. Annual expenditure, £19. Result? Happiness. Annual income, £20. Annual expenditure, £21. Result, misery.
Oh.
The blossom is blighted. The leaf is withered. The creditors howl on the whole dismal scene. And you are forever floored, as I am. You follow me, Copperfield?
Why, yes, Mr. Micawber.
Good. And now, Copperfield, farewell. Every happiness and prosperity. If in the progress of years I could persuade myself that my blighted destiny has been a warning to you, I should be happy. And in case of anything turning up, of which I'm rather confident, I shall be extremely happy if it should be in my power to improve your prospects. Farewell, Copperfield.
Goodbye, dear boy.
Goodbye, Mr. Micawber. Mrs. Micawber, and... God bless you both.
The Micawbers left, and without them, life was completely unbearable. So I decided to run away to Dover and throw myself on the mercy of my great-aunt, Betsy Trotwood, even if she hated little boys. One night I set out on the long, dusty road. I walked and walked through heat and rain and storm till my shoes wore out. I drank from puddles beside the road, pawned my outer clothes for a bite to eat, slept in meadows and haystacks. And finally, after 6 days of nightmare travel, I reached Dover and was directed to Aunt Betsy's cottage. I'd never seen her, but an old lady was coming down the garden walk, and I inquired.
Ma'am, are you Mistress Betsy Trotwood?
Go away. Go along. No boys here.
If you please, if you are Aunt Betsy, it's I, David Copperfield.
Mercy on me, what's the child saying?
Oh, Aunt Betsy.
Bless my soul, Lord, bless my soul. You'd be as like your father as it's possible to be if you were not so like your mother, too.
I'm so tired, Aunt Betsy. So tired. I've walked all the way from London.
Mercy on us, from London. Well, the first thing to do is to wash you, and then feed you, and then to bed with you. Janet? Drat the woman. Janet! Heat the bath at once. There's a Copperfield in the house.
Aunt Betsy took me in. I lived those few days in uncertainty, not knowing what my fate would be. And then one day the old fear came back. For we had a visitor, and I had to see him climb the stoop.
Ah, Mr. Murdstone.
Well, Mistress Trotwood, I received your letter, and here I am. I see that brat is here, too, hiding behind the door there. Now, what's your business with me?
For a man of your disposition, short and to the point. You already know David is here in my house, and I know that you're still his legal guardian. But I want David for my very own son. Do you intend to give him to me without quibbling?
I never quibble, Mistress Trotwood. A man in my position demands. But you're obviously no fit woman to handle the upbringing of that boy.
Hold your fang tongue, sir.
Mistress Trotwood, you've said enough.
I've said nothing, sir, compared with what I intend to. Your temper is as violent as my own, but there is at least a bit of warmth in my heart. My door is open to David Copperfield. I want your word that you'll give no interference.
I shall give you no such assurance.
Sir, you are dealing with Betsy Trotwood. I want no dilly-dallying. Give me your word.
I am the boy's legal guardian. You have no right.
I have a woman's right. Answer me. Do you want David yourself?
Certainly not. He has a sullen, rebellious spirit.
As rebellious as my own.
And a temper likened to the thunder's roar.
Good. I can see he also has no patience with nincompoops.
Mistress Trotwood.
I am calling you names, sir, and I shall continue to call you names until you give me your word.
My God. Great Jove, you are a stubborn woman. Do you mean to say that you will take this little imp into your house and
give him a home? For the first time in his life, I do indeed.
Then take him, Mistress Trotwood, and welcome you are. I don't care a farthing what happens to him. He's nothing but trouble.
Then I have your word, and I shall expect you to keep it, Mr. Murdstone. And if you do not, you'll have Betsy Trotwood to deal with, and that would be a skirmish you'd long remember. And now, good day, sir. The impertinence of such a man.
Aunt Betsy, you said I may stay with you.
Yes, child. Do you think I'd give you back to the clutches of that monster?
Then you don't hate me anymore because I'm a boy?
Bless you, no, Davy, no. Oh, I was dreadfully narrow once, and my conscience has been on me for years. David, I've been a wicked old woman and remiss in my duty. But now you'll be like my own son, to love and keep and protect and bring up like a true Copperfield.
Oh, Aunt Betsy. Aunt Betsy.
So, I, David Copperfield, from that day on, looked to a happier future. And now, being grown to a man's estate, I look back on my childhood, however sad, and weigh the influences such people as Mr. and Mrs. Micawber, Uriah Heep, Agnes, and Mr. Whitfield had upon me. It seems those days are only as far back as yesterday. The people I knew, as real as you and I. For they live, in my mind, clothed in the cloak of memory, caught in a web of nostalgia, even as the people in the sad and happy times of your own childhood days.